Commander Zethkar stood on the bridge of the stellar dawn and watched the stars through the main screen. His 4 arms rested at his sides, while his yellow eyes scanned the empty space ahead. The Vorthak Empire had sent him to patrol this sector of space where no intelligent life was supposed to exist. It was boring work for a warrior of his skill and experience. The Vorthak were the greatest fighters in the known galaxy. They stood 8 feet tall with thick armor plates covering their bodies. Each warrior had 4 strong arms that could hold weapons and shields at the same time. Their yellow eyes could see in the dark, and their hearing could pick up sounds from great distances. For 300 years, they had conquered world after world. 17 star systems now bowed to their power. Zethkar had led many successful battles. He had destroyed enemy fleets and brought glory to his name. His ship carried the best weapons and the strongest warriors in the Empire. The Stellar Dawn was a massive warship with enough firepower to destroy an entire planet. Today should have been like any other day of routine patrol. The communications officer turned toward him. "Commander, we are picking up a strange signal." "Ahead." Zethkar moved to the sensor station with quick steps. "Show me what you have found." The screen displayed a small blip moving slowly through space. The object was crude and boxy in shape. It moved with primitive engines that barely registered on their advanced sensors. Zethkar had never seen anything like it before. "It appears to be some kind of vessel, sir," the sensor operator said, "but the design is completely unknown to us." Zethkar felt excitement rise in his chest. An unknown ship meant an unknown species. An unknown species meant new slaves for the Empire and glory for himself. He had been hoping for something like this to break the endless routine of patrol duty. "Bring us closer, but stay ready for battle," he ordered. "This could be our chance for real action." The Stellar Dawn moved toward the strange vessel like a hunter stalking prey. As they got closer, the sensors revealed more details about the ship. It was much smaller than the Vorthak warship and appeared to be made of simple metal plates welded together. The design showed no understanding of proper military construction. "The vessel has detected our approach," the communications officer reported. "They are sending us a signal." "Put it on the main screen," Zethkar said. The screen flickered and showed the interior of the alien ship. Zethkar saw creatures that looked nothing like any species he had encountered before. They were small and soft-looking with pale skin and only 2 arms each. The creature in the center appeared to be their leader. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the exploration vessel New Horizon," the creature said in a calm voice. "We come in peace and would like to establish friendly contact with your people." Zethkar almost laughed at the words. Peace was a concept for the weak. The strong took what they wanted, and the weak served them. This Captain Morrison would learn that lesson soon enough. "I am Commander Zethkar of the Vorthak Empire," he replied in his deepest voice. "You will surrender your vessel immediately, and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your destruction." He expected fear or panic from the aliens. Instead, Captain Morrison looked directly at him with curious eyes. "We would be happy to meet with you, Commander Zethkar. Perhaps we could arrange a peaceful meeting between our peoples." The response confused Zethkar. No species had ever responded to Vorthak demands with curiosity instead of terror. These creatures seemed genuinely interested in talking rather than fighting or running away. "You do not understand your situation," Zethkar said. "We are the Vorthak Empire. We have conquered 17 star systems. You will surrender or be destroyed." Another alien appeared on the screen next to Captain Morrison. This one had long, dark hair and wore some kind of work clothing. "Commander, we would be honored to learn about your empire and share knowledge of our own people. My name is Lisa Bennett, and I am the chief engineer of this vessel." A third alien joined them. This one was younger with short brown hair. "I am Ryan Clark, our communications officer. We have been hoping to make contact with other intelligent species for many years. Zethkar felt more confused than ever. These creatures showed no fear at all. They spoke as if meeting the Vorthak was something wonderful instead of the end of their freedom. Their behavior made no sense according to everything he knew about conquest. A fourth alien appeared. This one had lighter skin and wore clothing that looked like it was used for scientific work. I am Amy Rodriguez, the science officer. We would very much like to study your biology and culture if you would permit it. The request was so strange that Zethkar almost forgot to respond. No conquered species had ever asked to study their conquerors before. Most begged for mercy or tried to fight back. These humans seemed excited about the whole situation. Your people are called humans? Zethkar asked. Yes, we are humans from the planet Earth, Captain Morrison replied. We have just achieved faster-than-light travel, and this is our first deep space exploration mission. Meeting you is the greatest discovery in our history. Zethkar turned away from the screen and spoke quietly to his second-in-command. What do you make of this, Lieutenant? They appear to be a very primitive species, sir, the lieutenant replied. Their ship shows no weapons systems and minimal defensive capabilities. They should be easy to conquer. Then why do they show no fear? Zethkar asked. Perhaps they are too ignorant to understand their danger, the lieutenant suggested. Zethkar turned back to the communication screen. The humans were still waiting patiently for his response. Captain Morrison stood with his hands clasped behind his back like he was reviewing troops instead of facing certain enslavement. We invite you to come aboard our ship, Commander, Morrison said. We have prepared quarters for diplomatic meetings, and our cook has prepared food that might interest you. The invitation was so unexpected that Zethkar almost stumbled backward. Enemy species were supposed to hide or attack, not invitee. They're conquerors to dinner. These humans were unlike anything in Vorthak experience. You invite us aboard your vessel? Zethkar asked. Of course, Lisa Bennett said with a smile. First contact between our species should be handled with proper ceremony and respect. We have many questions about your people and your empire, Amy Rodriguez added. This could be the beginning of a wonderful relationship between our peoples. Zethkar felt his warrior instincts telling him this was some kind of trap. No species could be this trusting and peaceful. They must be planning some kind of sneak attack or have hidden weapons. But his sensors showed no signs of military capability aboard their vessel. Very well, he said finally. I will come aboard. Your ship with a full war party. Any attempt at treachery will result in your immediate destruction. We understand, Commander, Morrison replied. We look forward to meeting you in person. The communication ended and Zethkar stared at the blank screen. In all his years of conquest, he had never encountered anything like these humans. They seemed genuinely happy to meet their future masters. It made no sense, but it also made his job much easier. Prepare a boarding party, he ordered. Full battle gear and maximum weapons. These humans may be planning something clever. As his warriors prepared for boarding, Zethkar studied the human vessel through his sensors. It really did appear to have no weapons and minimal defenses. Either these humans were the most peaceful species in the galaxy, or they were planning the most elaborate trap ever conceived. He would find out soon enough. Zethkar stepped through the airlock of the human vessel with 12 of his best warriors behind him. Each Vorthak carried multiple weapons and wore full combat armor. They expected to face desperate resistance or hidden traps. Instead, they found Captain Morrison waiting alone in a clean white corridor with his hands empty and a calm expression on his face. Welcome aboard the New Horizon, Commander Zethkar, Morrison said with what appeared to be genuine warmth. I hope the docking process was not too difficult for your people. Zethkar looked around the corridor with suspicious eyes. The walls were covered with strange symbols and pictures that meant nothing to him. Soft lights provided gentle illumination instead of the harsh military lighting he was used to. Everything appeared designed for comfort rather than warfare. Where are your weapons? Zethkar demanded. We do not carry weapons aboard our exploration vessels, Morrison replied. Our mission is peaceful discovery and scientific research. The answer made no sense to Zethkar. Every intelligent species he had ever encountered understood that strength came from weapons and fear. These humans seemed to have missed that basic lesson of survival. Morrison led them through the ship toward what he called the meeting room. Along the way, they passed other humans who stopped their work to stare at the Vorthak with obvious fascination. None showed fear or tried to hide. Children would have shown more caution around dangerous animals. Lisa Bennett joined them in a large room filled with tables and chairs. She carried a small device that she used to scan Zethkar and his warriors with obvious scientific interest. Your bone structure is fascinating, she said while studying her readings. The way your forearms connect to your torso shows remarkable evolutionary adaptation. How do you coordinate movement between all four limbs? Zethkar had never been asked such a question by a conquered species. Usually they were too busy begging for mercy to study their conquerors. We train from birth to use all four arms in combat, he replied automatically. Combat must be very different with four weapon hands, Bennett observed. Do you fight in formations designed around your multiple limbs, or does each warrior fight independently? The question showed such genuine curiosity that Zethkar found himself explaining Vorthak battle tactics. Bennett listened with complete attention and asked more questions that showed real understanding of military strategy. She seemed more interested in learning than in her own survival. Amy Rodriguez appeared with a collection of instruments and requested permission to take biological readings. When Zethkar agreed, she began scanning him with devices he did not recognize. Her excitement grew as she gathered more data. Your cellular structure is unlike anything in our databases, she said with wonder in her voice. The density of your muscle fibers explains your incredible strength, and these armor plates appear to be living tissue rather than artificial protection. Our armor grows with us from childhood, Zethkar explained. It becomes stronger as we age and fight more battles. That is amazing, Rodriguez said. A biological defense system that improves through experience. Does it repair itself when damaged? Zethkar found himself describing the regenerative properties of Vorthak armor while Rodriguez took detailed notes. She asked questions that no Vorthak scientist had ever thought to investigate. Her approach to learning impressed him despite his intention to remain cold and military. Ryan Clark brought them food and drinks while explaining human customs around hospitality. The food was strange, but not unpleasant. Clark asked about Vorthak culture and history with the same genuine interest the others had shown. How many worlds does your empire control? Clark asked. 17 star systems bow to Vorthak power, Zethkar replied with pride. That must require amazing coordination and communication systems, Clark observed. How do you maintain control across such vast distances? The question led to a discussion of Vorthak government and military organization. Clark showed real understanding of the challenges involved in managing an interstellar empire. His questions revealed knowledge of political and military theory that surprised Zethkar. Hours passed without Zethkar realizing it. The humans continued asking questions and sharing information about their own people and planet. They showed him pictures of Earth with its blue oceans and green continents. They described human history and culture with obvious love for their world. Morrison explained how humans had evolved from primitive tribes to a space-traveling civilization. He described their wars and conflicts, but also their art and music and literature. The humans seemed proud of their achievements, but also honest about their failures. We have made many mistakes as a species, Morrison admitted. We fought wars over resources and territory and beliefs. But we learned that cooperation achieves more than conflict. That is why we explore space peacefully rather than as conquerors. The concept of peaceful exploration puzzled Zethkar. In his experience, the strong took what they wanted, and the weak accepted their fate. The idea of choosing cooperation over conquest seemed like weakness. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Ryan Clark ran to a communication station, and his face went pale as he read the incoming data. "Captain, we have a massive energy signature approaching fast," Clark reported. "The computer identifies it as a Devourer-class vessel." Zethkar felt ice form in his veins. The Devourers were the most feared enemy in known space. They were ancient machines that consumed entire worlds for energy. Even the mighty Vorthak Empire avoided them rather than risk battle. "How far away?" Morrison asked with calm authority. 12 minutes until they reach us," Clark replied. Morrison turned to Zethkar. "Commander, I propose we combine our efforts to escape this threat. Your ship has superior weapons and shields, but our engines might provide the speed boost we need to outrun them." Zethkar stared at the human captain. Morrison was offering alliance with the very people he had come to conquer. The logical choice was to abandon the humans and flee alone. But his ship might not be fast enough to escape without help. "What do you propose?" Zethkar asked. Lisa Bennett stepped forward. "We could link our power systems temporarily. Your shields combined with our engine modifications might give both ships enough speed to reach safe distance." The plan was desperate and dangerous. Linking power systems between ships required perfect coordination and trust. One mistake could destroy both vessels. But facing a Devourer ship alone meant certain death. "We will try your plan," Zethkar decided. The next few minutes became a blur of activity. Bennett and the Vorthak engineers worked together to establish power links between the ships. Rodriguez provided calculations for optimal escape vectors, while Clark coordinated communications between both crews. When the Devourer ship appeared on sensors, it was massive beyond belief. The ancient machine vessel stretched for miles in every direction. Weapon ports covered its hull like the eyes of some terrible insect. Energy readings showed power levels that could crack planets. "Link established," Bennett reported. "Engaging combined engines now." Both ships accelerated together with their power systems merged. The Devourer immediately changed course to pursue them. Energy beams lanced out from the machine ship, missing by mere kilometers. Clark suddenly announced he was attempting something called electronic warfare. He had managed to hack into Devourer communication systems and was feeding them false targeting data. The machine ship began firing at empty space while the linked human and Vorthak vessels escaped. Rodriguez used her scientific knowledge to identify weak points in the Devourer energy matrix. She guided their course to exploit blind spots in the enemy sensor array. Her quick thinking saved them from several near hits. After 20 minutes of desperate flight, they finally reached safe distance. The Devourer ship gave up pursuit and continued on its original course toward some distant star system. Zethkar looked around at the humans who had just helped save his life and the lives of his crew. These soft-looking creatures had fought with creativity and intelligence he had never seen before. They had shown courage under pressure that rivaled any Vorthak warrior. For the first time in his military career, Zethkar began to question what he thought he knew about strength and weakness. These humans might look soft, but they had just outfought one of the most dangerous enemies in the galaxy using nothing but their minds and their willingness to work together. Perhaps there was more to learn about these strange creatures before he decided their fate. 2 days later, Zethkar found himself approaching Haven Station with the human vessel New Horizon flying beside his warship. Captain Morrison had invited him to visit their research outpost, and something about the humans made him curious enough to accept. The battle with the Devourer ship had left him with questions about these strange creatures. Haven Station appeared on the main screen as they approached. It was nothing like the military installation Zethkar expected. The station looked more like a small city floating in space with gardens visible through transparent sections and docking bays designed for many different types of ships. "Welcome to Haven Station, Commander," came a voice over the communication system. "This is Commander Peter Hayes. We are honored to receive the first Vorthak visitor in our history." Zethkar studied the human leader on his screen. Hayes appeared, older than Morrison, with gray hair and lines around his eyes that suggested many years of experience. But like the others, he showed no fear when looking at a Vorthak warrior. "Your station does not look like a military base," Zethkar observed. "That is because it is not," Hayes replied with a smile. "Haven Station is dedicated to scientific research and peaceful exploration. We study the galaxy and its many forms of life." The docking process went smoothly, and soon Zethkar was walking through corridors filled with humans going about their daily work. Children ran past him playing games while their parents watched with calm eyes. No one seemed worried about having a dangerous alien predator in their home. Hayes met him at the airlock with several other humans. "Commander, this is our security chief, Maria Santos, our chief medical officer, Kevin Wright, and our lead xenobiologist, Hannah Green." Maria Santos was clearly a warrior despite her small size. She carried herself with the confidence of someone trained for battle. But instead of challenging him, she offered a respectful greeting and asked intelligent questions about Vorthak military traditions. Kevin Wright looked at Zethkar with the same scientific curiosity Rodriguez had shown. He asked permission to examine the wounds Zethkar had received during the Devourer encounter. His medical skills impressed the Vorthak commander, as Wright treated injuries that Vorthak doctors would have struggled with. Hannah Green was perhaps the most unusual human Zethkar had met. She studied alien life forms and had been hoping to meet other intelligent species for her entire career. Her excitement at examining a living Vorthak was obvious and infectious. "Your bone density is remarkable," Green observed while scanning him with medical instruments. "The calcium carbonate deposits in your armor plating show adaptation to high-gravity environments. What is the gravity on your homeworld?" Zethkar found himself describing Vorthak Prime and its harsh conditions. Green listened with fascination and asked questions that showed deep understanding of evolutionary biology. She treated him with gentle care while examining his injuries. Hayes took him on a tour of the station that revealed more surprises. The research laboratories contained equipment for studying everything from stellar formation to quantum physics. The libraries held knowledge gathered from dozens of different worlds and species. "We believe that understanding leads to peace," Hayes explained as they walked through archives filled with cultural data. "The more we learn about other forms of life, the better we can cooperate and coexist." The concept still puzzled Zethkar. Vorthak tradition taught that knowledge was power and power was used to conquer. These humans seemed to view knowledge as something to be shared rather than hoarded. Wright showed him recordings of human history stored in the station archives. Zethkar watched scenes of human wars and conflicts that seemed remarkably similar to Vorthak battles. Humans fought over territory and resources just like any warrior species. "We were not always peaceful," Wright admitted. "For thousands of years we fought each other over land and wealth and different beliefs. Millions died in wars that solved nothing." "Then how did you change?" Zethkar asked. "We learned that cooperation achieved more than conquest," Wright replied. "When we faced threats that could destroy all of us, we discovered the power of working together instead of fighting each other." Wright showed him images of Earth from space. The blue and green world looked beautiful and peaceful from orbit, but Wright explained that humans were still learning to take care of their planet and each other. "We make mistakes," Wright said honestly, "but we try to learn from them and do better next time." Hayes brought him to an observation deck where they could see the stars through a transparent wall. Other humans worked at stations nearby, but they were not afraid to have a Vorthak warrior so close to them. "What do you think of us, Commander?" Hayes asked quietly. Zethkar considered the question carefully. These humans were unlike any species he had encountered. They showed curiosity instead of fear, They offered help instead of resistance. They valued learning over fighting. "You are not what I expected," Zethkar admitted. "What did you expect?" "Weakness, cowardice, immediate surrender to superior force." Hayes smiled. "And what do you see instead?" Zethkar looked around at the humans working calmly at their tasks. Children played in a nearby area while their parents discussed scientific theories. Everyone seemed content and purposeful. "I see people who are not afraid," he said slowly. "People who choose cooperation over conflict. People who value knowledge and peace." "Does that make us weak?" Hayes asked. The question made Zethkar think about the battle with the Devourer ship. The humans had fought with intelligence and creativity that impressed him. They had shown courage under pressure and willingness to risk their lives for others. "No," he said finally, "I do not think you are weak." Hannah Green approached them carrying a datapad filled with her research notes. "Commander, I hope you do not mind, but I have been analyzing the biological samples from your medical treatment. Your healing rate is extraordinary." She showed him readings that demonstrated how quickly his wounds were repairing themselves. Her scientific excitement was obvious as she explained what she had discovered about Vorthak biology. "Your people have evolved remarkable resistance to injury and disease," she said. "This data could help us understand how to treat injuries in other species as well." "You would share this knowledge?" Zethkar asked. "Of course," Green replied. "Scientific discovery belongs to everyone. The more we all understand about biology and medicine, the better we can help each other." The generosity surprised him. Vorthak scientists guarded their discoveries jealously and used them to gain advantage over enemies. These humans seemed eager to give away knowledge that could benefit their potential conquerors. That evening, Hayes invited him to join the station crew for their daily meal. Zethkar sat among dozens of humans who treated him like an honored guest, rather than a dangerous predator. They asked questions about his life and his people while sharing stories of their own experiences. A human child approached him during the meal and stared up at his massive form with wide eyes. Instead of running away in terror, the child asked if he would like to see the drawings she had made of different alien species. The child showed him pictures of creatures from her imagination, along with more realistic drawings based on scientific data. She had drawn a picture of a Vorthak warrior that was surprisingly accurate considering she had never seen one before. "You are much bigger than I thought you would be," the child said seriously. "But your eyes look kind." The innocent observation struck Zethkar deeply. No one had ever called his eyes kind before. Vorthak warriors were supposed to look fierce and threatening. This human child saw something different. As the evening ended, Hayes made a request that shocked Zethkar completely. "Commander, we have detected increased devourer activity in this sector. Several colonies have gone silent, and we believe they may have been consumed. Would you help us warn other species in the area?" The request asked him to protect the very people he had originally planned to conquer. It asked him to work against his own empire's interests for the sake of species he barely knew. But as Zethkar looked around at the humans who had shown him nothing but kindness and respect, he realized he could not simply watch them be destroyed. These people had something valuable that the galaxy needed. Their approach to life and their willingness to cooperate offered hope for a better future. "I will help you," he said quietly. Hayes smiled and extended his hand in the human gesture of agreement. When Zethkar took the offered hand, he felt like he was crossing a line that he could never uncross again. Zethkar returned to his ship the next morning with his mind full of confusing thoughts about the humans. He had planned to spend a few days studying their weaknesses before reporting back to Vorthak Command. Instead, he found himself questioning everything he had believed about strength and conquest. His communications officer met him at the airlock with urgent news. "Commander, we have received an emergency transmission from Fleet Admiral Korvex himself." Zethkar felt his stomach tighten. with worry. Direct communication from the fleet admiral meant either great honor or terrible punishment. He went to his private quarters to receive the message in privacy. Admiral Corvex appeared on the screen in his full military uniform. His scarred face and cold yellow eyes showed the experience of countless battles. He was the most feared military leader in the Vorthak Empire. Commander Zethkar, your reports about this sector have been most interesting, Corvex began. Intelligence analysis suggests you have made contact with a new species called humans. Zethkar nodded carefully. Yes, Admiral. The humans appear to be a peaceful, exploration-oriented species with limited military capability. Excellent, Corvex continued. Your infiltration of their society has provided valuable intelligence. I am personally leading a full invasion fleet to your location. We will arrive in 72 hours to claim this entire sector for the Empire. The words hit Zethkar like a physical blow. Corvex thought his time with the humans had been a military operation designed to gather intelligence for conquest. The Admiral was planning to enslave or destroy every human in the sector. Admiral, perhaps we should consider diplomatic contact first, Zethkar said carefully. The humans have shown willingness to cooperate and share technology. Corvex laughed harshly. Cooperation is for the weak, Commander. We take what we want. By force, as our ancestors have always done. Your reconnaissance has shown that these humans have no significant military power. They will make excellent slaves for our industrial worlds. But, Admiral, their scientific knowledge could be valuable. If we approach them peacefully, knowledge taken by force is more valuable than knowledge freely given, Corvex replied coldly. It teaches the conquered species their proper place in the natural order. You have done well, Commander. Your infiltration strategy will be studied at the military academy. The communication ended, leaving Zethkar staring at a blank screen. In 72 hours, the most powerful fleet in Vorthak history would arrive to destroy everything he had come to respect about human civilization. He thought about Hannah Green treating his wounds with gentle care. He remembered the human child, who said his eyes looked kind. He pictured Morrison and his crew risking their lives to help him escape the Devourer ship. For the first time in his military career, Zethkar faced a choice that went against everything he had been taught. He could follow orders and watch the humans be enslaved or destroyed, or he could betray his own empire to protect people who had shown him nothing but kindness. The decision tore at his warrior soul, but he knew what he had to do. Zethkar piloted a small shuttle back to Haven Station alone. When he arrived, Hayes met him at the docking bay with obvious concern on his face. "Commander, you look troubled. Is everything all right?" "We need to talk immediately," Zethkar said. "Gather your senior staff and anyone who makes important decisions. What I have to tell you will change everything." Hayes assembled the station leadership in their main conference room. Morrison had returned from his exploration mission and sat beside Rodriguez and Bennett. Wright and Santos flanked Hayes while Green took notes on her data pad. "My people are coming," Zethkar began without ceremony. "Fleet Admiral Corvex is leading a full invasion force to this sector. They will arrive in less than 72 hours. The humans absorbed this news with remarkable calm. Hayes asked practical questions about fleet size and capabilities, while Santos began calculating defensive options. Morrison suggested evacuation procedures while Wright started planning medical response. "How many ships?" Hayes asked. "More than 300 warships, including the flagship Eternal Victory," Zethkar replied. "Each ship carries enough firepower to destroy this station completely." "What are their intentions?" Morrison asked. "Complete conquest of this sector. They plan to enslave your people and strip your worlds of resources. Any resistance will be met with total destruction." The humans looked at each other with expressions that mixed sadness with determination. Zethkar expected panic or despair, but instead he saw them beginning to organize for action. "We need to warn the other colonies in this sector," Hayes said calmly. "How long do we have before the fleet arrives?" 68 hours now, Zethkar replied. That gives us time to evacuate civilians and coordinate with our allies, Santos said while studying tactical displays. We can save most of the population if we move quickly. Green looked up from her data pad. Commander, why are you warning us? This goes against your own people. The question hung in the air while Zethkar struggled to find words for feelings. He barely understood himself. How could he explain that these soft-looking creatures had shown him a different way of thinking about strength and purpose? Because what my people plan to do is wrong, he said finally. You have shown me kindness and respect. You saved my life when you had no reason to help me. I cannot stand by and watch you be destroyed for the crime of being peaceful. Hayes reached across the table and placed his hand on Zethkar's armored arm. Thank you for your courage, Commander. I know this decision cannot be easy for you. The next few hours became a blur of activity as the humans began implementing emergency procedures. Children and elderly civilians were loaded onto transport. Ships heading for distant safe zones. Scientific data was copied and distributed to prevent total loss of human knowledge. But alongside the evacuation, Zethkar witnessed something that chilled him to his core. The humans were not just running away. They were preparing to fight. Bennett worked with a team of engineers to modify civilian ships into improvised warships. Rodriguez calculated attack patterns and defensive formations using knowledge she had gained from studying Vorthak military tactics. Clark coordinated with human colonies throughout the sector, building a communication network for resistance operations. Santos organized the evacuation with military precision, while simultaneously planning guerrilla warfare strategies. Wright prepared mobile medical stations to treat wounded fighters. Even Green contributed by designing biological weapons that could disrupt Vorthak life support systems. The horror that Zethkar discovered was not human weakness, but human determination. When faced with impossible odds against a vastly superior enemy, they did not surrender or flee in panic. Instead, they adapted their peaceful society into a war machine with frightening efficiency. Morrison approached him near the end of the day, with a request that stunned him completely. Commander, we need detailed information about Vorthak ship weaknesses and military tactics. Will you help us? The request asked him to betray military secrets that had taken the Vorthak Empire centuries to develop. It asked him to provide information that could be used to kill his own people. But as he looked around at humans working desperately to save their families and their way of life, he knew he could not refuse. I will tell you everything I know, Zethkar said. Over the next several hours, he provided complete intelligence about Vorthak weapon systems, shield frequencies, engine vulnerabilities, and command structures. The humans absorbed every detail and immediately began incorporating the information into their battle plans. Ryan Clark volunteered to stay behind and operate, a warning beacon that would alert other species about the Vorthak invasion. The mission meant certain death, but Clark accepted it without hesitation. Someone has to warn the galaxy about what is coming, Clark said simply. If we can save other worlds from conquest, then our sacrifice will have meaning. As Zethkar watched the young human prepare for certain death, he realized something that terrified him more than any devourer ship. The Vorthak Empire had spent 3 centuries conquering species that fought for territory or resources or survival. They had never faced an enemy that fought for ideals. These humans were not just defending their homes. They were defending their belief that cooperation was better than conquest and that knowledge should be shared rather than hoarded. They were willing to die for the idea that tomorrow could be better than today. For the first time in his military career, Zethkar understood what real horror looked like. It was not the fear in an enemy's eyes before battle. It was the absolute determination in human eyes as they prepared to sacrifice everything for principles they would not abandon. The Vorthak Empire was about to face an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered, an enemy that became more dangerous the more desperate they became, an enemy that would never surrender because they fought for something greater than themselves. Zethkar had helped create this enemy, and now he would have to live with the consequences. The Vorthak invasion fleet arrived exactly on schedule, like a dark cloud blotting out the stars. Zethkar watched from the bridge of his ship as 300 warships took formation around Haven Station. The flagship Eternal Victory dwarfed every other vessel in the fleet, including his own. Fleet Admiral Corvex opened communication channels to all ships in the invasion force. His scarred face appeared on screens throughout the fleet as he prepared to address his commanders. "Warriors of the Vorthak Empire," Corvex began in his commanding voice. "Today we claim another sector for our glory. These humans have no significant military power and will surrender quickly when they see our strength." Zethkar felt sick as he listened to the Admiral's confident words. Corvex had no idea what kind of enemy he was about to face. The humans had spent the last 3 days transforming their peaceful society into something the Vorthak had never encountered before. "Commander Zethkar will lead the initial assault on their main station," Corvex continued. "His reconnaissance has provided valuable intelligence about their weaknesses." The order hit Zethkar like a physical blow. Corvex wanted him to personally lead the attack against people who had shown him nothing but kindness. The Admiral expected him to destroy the very humans who had saved his life and opened his eyes to a different way of thinking. Zethkar made his decision in that moment. He opened a private communication channel to Haven Station and sent a message that would brand him as a traitor forever. "This is Commander Zethkar to Haven Station. The invasion fleet has arrived. Admiral Corvex commands 300 warships, including heavy battlecruisers and assault carriers. They plan to demand surrender in 10 minutes. I am transmitting complete tactical data about fleet positions and ship capabilities." The response came from Captain Morrison, who had assumed command of the station's defense. "Thank you, Commander. We are ready." Those simple words carried more weight than Morrison probably realized. The humans were ready to face impossible odds with nothing but determination and the intelligence Zethkar had provided. They were ready to die for their beliefs rather than surrender their freedom. Admiral Corvex opened communication with Haven Station, expecting to receive immediate surrender from terrified humans. Instead, Morrison appeared on the screen, looking calm and determined. "This is Captain Morrison speaking for Haven Station and the human colonies in this sector. We do not recognize your authority here, and we will not surrender to an invading force." Corvex laughed harshly. "You have no choice, human. We have 300 warships against your single station. Surrender now, and we will allow some of your people to live as slaves." "We reject your terms," Morrison replied firmly. "We would rather die free than live as slaves." The words echoed through every ship in the Vorthak fleet. No species had ever chosen death over slavery when facing overwhelming Vorthak power. The response confused and angered the Vorthak commanders, who expected immediate submission. "Then you will die," Corvex snarled. "All ships prepare for attack. Show these humans the price of defying the Vorthak Empire." What happened next changed everything Zethkar thought he knew about warfare. As the Vorthak fleet moved to attack positions, dozens of human ships appeared from behind asteroids and space debris. They were not military vessels, but converted civilian craft armed with improvised weapons. The humans struck first using the tactical intelligence Zethkar had provided. They targeted shield generators and engine systems with precision that surprised the Vorthak commanders. Small human ships darted between massive Vorthak warships like insects stinging a giant beast. Lisa Bennett had modified human engines to produce more speed than should have been possible. Her ships moved with agility that Vorthak vessels could not match. Amy Rodriguez coordinated attack patterns that exploited every weakness in Vorthak formation tactics. But the real shock came when Ryan Clark began broadcasting from Haven Station. His message went out on every communication frequency in the sector, reaching human colonies and alien species throughout the region. "This is Ryan Clark speaking for the free people of this sector. We are under attack by the Vorthak Empire. We will not surrender our freedom. We will fight until our last breath for the right to live free and explore the galaxy in peace. The message spread through space faster than the battle itself. Other species who had hidden from Vorthak power began to take notice. Some sent ships to help, while others provided intelligence about Vorthak movements in their own sectors. Admiral Corvex found himself facing not just human resistance, but a growing alliance of species who had decided they would rather fight than submit. The humans had turned their peaceful exploration network into a military coalition in a matter of hours. The battle raged for days with losses mounting on both sides. Human ships were destroyed, but more kept appearing from hidden bases throughout the sector. Every time the Vorthak destroyed one human vessel, two more took its place. Zethkar watched human fighters ram their damaged ships into Vorthak warships when their weapons failed. He saw civilian transports loaded with explosives crash into enemy vessels to save others. The humans fought with a desperation that made them increasingly dangerous as their situation became more hopeless. The horror that Zethkar had discovered reached its peak when he realized the humans were winning, not through superior firepower or better ships, but through sheer determination and willingness to sacrifice everything for their cause. Ryan Clark's final transmission became legendary throughout the galaxy. As Vorthak forces closed in on Haven Station, he sent out one last message before the station's destruction. "For those who come after us," Clark said simply before the transmission ended forever. Those words spread through human space like wildfire. Every human colony and ship in the galaxy received the message and understood its meaning. The people of Haven Station had died so that others could live free. The effect on human resistance was immediate and devastating. Ships that had been retreating turned around to attack with suicidal fury. Human colonies that had been preparing to surrender instead began building weapons and training fighters. Admiral Corvex achieved tactical victory by destroying Haven Station. But the strategic situation had become impossible. Human resistance was spreading faster than his forces could contain it. Other species were joining the fight against Vorthak expansion. For the first time in 3 centuries, the Vorthak Empire faced an enemy that grew stronger through defeat. Every human death inspired 10 more to take up arms. Every destroyed colony became a rallying cry for rebellion. After 2 weeks of fighting, Corvex ordered a withdrawal to regroup and reassess the situation. The most powerful military force in the galaxy had been forced to retreat by a species they had intended to enslave in a single day. Zethkar officially defected during the withdrawal. He could not return to serve an empire that had shown him its true nature through this campaign. The humans accepted him despite his role in their suffering. Dr. Wright offered him a position helping other species understand human culture and values. Hannah Green continued her research with Zethkar as a willing subject helping bridge the gap between human and alien biology. Months later, Zethkar stood in the rebuilt Haven Station, watching human children play in the gardens that had been restored after the battle. The children showed no fear of him, despite knowing he belonged to the species that had destroyed their original home. One little girl approached him with a drawing she had made. It showed humans and Vorthak working together among the stars with planets and ships scattered across a peaceful galaxy. "Is this what you want the future to look like?" she asked seriously. Zethkar looked at the innocent picture and thought about everything he had learned since meeting the humans. He had discovered that real horror was not the capacity for violence, but the willingness to hope for something better, even when hope seemed impossible. "Yes, little one," he said gently. "This is exactly what the future should look like." The human child smiled and handed him the drawing to keep. As Zethkar held the picture, he realized that the humans had not just defeated the Vorthak Empire in battle. They had defeated the idea that strength came from conquest and fear. The galaxy would never be the same because a few humans had chosen to fight for their beliefs rather than surrender to superior force. Their horror was not in their weapons or their tactics, but in their absolute refusal to accept that tomorrow could not be better than today. Zethkar had come to conquer humans and instead discovered that some things were more powerful than military might. Hope backed by determination could move mountains and change the course of galactic history. The day he fought with humans had taught him what real horror looked like. It looked like ordinary people doing extraordinary things because they believed the future was worth fighting for.